Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of King Houses for Rookies. You awake, Pete? I guess not. You're not answering me. Episode number 173.
I'm just listening, Bill.
How to turn time, even if you don't have it, into money using real estate.
I got stuck at the part, even if you don't have it. I stopped right there.
How do you turn time into money? I'm sure if you dug hard enough, there are exceptions. But so far, in 30 plus years of being self-employed, I have adhered to these few disciplines I'm going to share in this podcast. And it has always been exceptionally successful. And everyone I have met and gotten to know who ignores these disciplines, one for one, fail.
Ouch.
I'm not mixing words here.
No,
I mean this.
You know, I've seen things like that happen in certain fields. You have to do this, that, and the other. And if you don't, it ain't going to work.
It is possible that a few disciplines alone can literally determine success or failure. That is for you to decide. In today's episode, I will introduce you to those never before taught about habits, these special habits that I use. Honestly, I've read a lot on the topic of time management by many authors, and you know that because I read a lot.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get that one straight.
Yeah. But I've never seen or heard of what I'm going to go over today, ever before.
Get out of here. Really?
I swear to God.
Okay.
I made it up.
You did.
I didn't even know I had it.
Well,
I started thinking about it.
That's how you find things. What should I talk about tomorrow, today? And
so, if you're struggling with your own little time management systems,
don't look at me. Don't look at me when you say that.
You will never overcome your surroundings enough to pull off the real estate profits needed to replace your income. If you don't get the time thing down, it's just not going to happen. Okay? You'll give the rest of us, creative real estate investors, a bad name while contributing to the middle class slow death.
As they go to the Coliseum and watch the chariot races and eat bread.
So
and
Peter,
be distracted.
Peter,
yes.
Pull up the couch and lay down.
Here
we go.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
This has nothing to do with me.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to listen to this one.
You just keep telling yourself that, and let me know how that works out for you.
I want to go back to Kansas. I want to go back to Kansas.
Click your heels. All right. So, I've actually got a couple things that I'm missing that maybe Emma could help me with. So, could you get me the episode? I forgot to do that this morning. I'm sorry. The episode number where I talk about time management on here, and then the one in the boot camp.
That's all of season 1.
Okay, but there's a specific one where I go over time blocking. So I don't want to cover that today. So there's one that's actually named in the boot camp. So I want folks to realize that this is not a time blocking episode. Although if you don't understand time blocking, what I'm going to teach you right now won't work. This is actually before time blocking.
Okay, that could be the case.
Right.
Why time blocking is hard.
It's not working because if you don't have this mindset, then it will be difficult. So I'm sorry. I was trying to let me fess up. So I'm having trouble with my time. I worked last night till 9:00 trying to get everything done, and my time is a little bit different than most. I think maybe I'm wrong, and I'm going to explain it in here. It's just because I have a lot of things going on. Not that most people don't, but I'm going to explain to you the difference between what I have going on and what you have going on. I don't mean you personally. I mean others. And there's a big difference. And when I explain it to you, you'll be like, ah.
Is it something like this? This is a couple years back. Just as an analogy, music, right? Of students, they have to practice, right? The guy goes, I was so busy last week. I was busy every night. Oh, you poor guy. Well, what happened? Like Monday was bowling. Tuesday was a birthday party. Friday I went to a concert. No, Wednesday was my friend's birthday. Right. And I said, I feel so sorry for you as I spanked him. It's just, seriously, that's your problem in life? Having fun is getting in your way. Right. How terrible. I felt so sorry.
Being sarcastic. All right, go ahead, Em.
145.
So if you go to Flipping Houses for Rookie, the podcast you're on now, go to number 145. Let me get it here so I can read it. Learning the art of making time for real estate. Yeah, learning the art of making time for real estate investing. Number 145 in this episode. Then if you go to the other episode that we have that we've already recorded and we don't add episodes to that, which is the what did I say?
You keep saying episode, the other podcast.
The other podcast. It's episode number. It's season 1, episode number 1, which is also about time blocking. Okay, so you should go listen to those for that technology. Thank you, Emma. Okay, all right. So I'm going to start the show off today with 2 words. Then, and only then, we'll go from there. Okay? So the words are assets and liabilities.
Oh. I was talking about that somebody yesterday.
Let's determine, let's define them and determine what they mean first before we go too far. Let's perfectly clear them up.
Yeah.
Okay? So asset has a couple of different meanings. Here we're going to pick this meaning, okay? Like you can have an asset like like the government has an asset that's a spy.
Oh yeah.
Right? Or you can have an asset like a car, like a house. Okay? In this definition, we're going to use this definition. There are a couple. I want you to be aware this is not the only definition of asset, but this is the one I want you to use for today's episode. Okay, and this is a little bit I made it up and a little bit from a dictionary, and I took a lot of this material, not a lot of material, but the concept I got from Kiyosaki in Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, and if you go online, there's a lot of controversy on him saying this, but I would listen to him before I listen to the controversy. Okay.
Yep.
So definition of an asset is something valuable that you or your entity owns. Okay, that benefits from, right? So you benefit from it, or has use of, and generating income. So it's something valuable that you or an entity owns, benefits from, or has use of in generating income. Okay,
I like that definition.
Yeah. So I'll say it one more time. Something valuable that you or your entity owns, benefits from, or has use of in generating income. Now, the word comes from, we call it a derivation, but the root word actually comes from, right? Actually, before I do that, assets create or preserve wealth. Making them of utmost importance to both individuals and companies.
Yep.
So assets create or preserve wealth. Making them of utmost importance to both individuals and companies. Right? So does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, that makes... Well, I studied economics in college, and they talk about it differently, and that's why there's a controversy. But this is very functional in terms of... If somebody wants to do real estate or be self-employed and wants to make money, you have to understand the definition.
Right.
Because an asset in this concept makes you money.
Right.
It's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit like guys, even back to Carlton Sheets, I think, talked about good debt, bad debt.
Right.
Not all debt is bad.
Right.
If you can get something with debt that makes you money, what's that? What's bad about that?
Right.
But if you get something with debt that just costs you money,
Right.
like a car that just depreciates and just goes to hell on you, like what's great about that?
Right.
Besides driving it and looking cool, but then in the end, what do you got?
Right.
Rust.
Yep. All right. So the word comes from, or is derived from, Old French. It's A-S-E-Z, as says.
They'll probably say assez in French. And I don't really know the derivation. I'm really listening because I don't know that one.
Meaning enough.
Oh, man. In Italian, we say assai, which means like a lot.
Yeah.
Like gimme, like it's got a lot. Assai, a lot. Yeah, that's good.
A-S-E-Z, meaning enough. So
Okay.
it's Old French, meaning enough. Okay.
Which means you're on the getting side, not the losing side.
Right.
Okay, I like it.
Liabilities or liability,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's a couple definitions. A thing from which someone is responsible, especially a debt or financial obligation. That's one.
Yeah.
Number two is something such as the payment of money for which a person or business is legally responsible. Those are right out of Webster Dictionary.
Yep.
So when I was reading the controversy on, Kiyosaki stuff a day or two ago when I was doing, or when I was working on this, it's misunderstood words. These people that have controversies just don't get the words. They should really go look up the words and understand them, and they probably wouldn't, because there are two definitions that support Mr. Kiyosaki's philosophy. And his philosophy is, right? Actually, before I go there, there's a third definition. I had to turn the page. So there's three definitions. So liability, a thing for which someone is responsible, especially a debt or financial obligation. Number two, something such as the payment of money for which a person or business is legally responsible. And number three, which is what we're going to probably use today the most, is someone or something that causes problems.
Okay. Like that friend we used to have that we don't have anymore because he was such a liability.
Right.
Or the contractors we had that were such a liability because they were more trouble than they were worth.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Good examples. Yeah. Okay.
So the origin or derivation of the word is Anglo-French. Right. And it means to bind.
So you're bound to something.
Yeah, to bind.
Okay. Okay.
And that, to me, would be a liability because maybe you don't want to be bound to it.
Yeah, like you're stuck with something.
Yeah.
You're responsible for it. You have to do something with it. You have to pay for it, take care of it.
Right.
Okay.
So now diving into Robert Kiyosaki's world. Okay. And I only bring it up because I think he, out of all the stuff I've read, has done the best job of clarifying this. So well done to Robert. Obviously, he knows that. He sold, last I knew, 32 million books. 32 million books of Rich Dad Poor Dad in all kinds of
Just that
languages.
one?
Just that one book.
No, I heard when I was reading his stuff, I heard that he couldn't get it published at first because they were bitching and moaning about the definition.
Yeah, of these definitions.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I studied economics in college, and when you're in a classroom with a teacher, did he do it? Did he do the job? Did he have a job? Does he have assets, or is he just working on like paper definitions to be right and what things mean? How about how it works in the real world?
Right.
Is it making you money? Is it costing you money?
Tell me what the word pedantic means.
Pedantic?
Pedantic. Yeah.
Pedantic is like when someone's teaching you and they're just going over and over lots of details, too much information. It's not so practical. It's like you're teaching a child and explaining in such great detail that you're at your school, but did you learn anything? Is it useful? That's my meaning.
To me, pedantic means that they're more interested on the process of teaching you than the actual application of the material.
Yes, they spend so much
That's
time
what
teaching
pedantic
it.
means to me.
Yeah,
So
I get the
they're
same thing.
stuck on like, here's what the textbook says. You need to read page 43 to 42 on day 4. And that's how we do it.
Because it's going to be on the test.
Right.
Now, what I love about Robert is that he talks about teachers like that. Like, I had a teacher once in college that was a businessman, which was kind of good, but he had failed, so he had to go back to teaching.
Right.
So he wasn't even a good businessman nor a good teacher. So I lost both ways. Right. I'd rather have somebody that knows what he's talking about telling me something. Somebody successful, like you teach me.
So in his classic, Robert Kiyosaki's classic, okay, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says, and these are his words, I'm not making these up, these are verbatim for what he says. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
End of story.
Right.
And beginning of podcast.
Right. Or, that's right.
I almost said end, but that is so powerful.
Right.
It makes a difference.
Right. Or an asset is something that you own that more than pays for itself either now or over time. And a liability is the opposite of an asset. It is something that goes down in value now or over time.
Yep.
So are we clear what an asset and a liability is?
Yeah. Which one would you rather have?
Right. Well, you have to have both. I want to be clear. You can't not have assets and not have liabilities.
I suppose. Yeah.
You have to have both.
But I think your point today is not to confuse which is which.
And and we're going to talk about it at the very end of today's podcast, but the balance of them, like asset to liability ratio,
right?
I actually have a number.
Oh, I was talking to one of my students yesterday that moved in my neighborhood from a $250,000 house to a $600,000 house in the fancy neighborhood, and the wife just got transferred to New Jersey with a whopping bunch of money. They're probably going to buy $1 million house. And we had this conversation about, he has financial advisors, and they play this game of liabilities and equity and balancing it and moving it here and there. And he's fairly knowledgeable, but is it is it liabilities or is it paper? Like, careful. And he's trying to be careful. But I said, why don't you invest in something like apartments with me? No.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So we have that assets and liabilities. So assets make things grow. Liabilities make things shrink. Okay, my own way, right? So how does this relate to time?
Well, sure.
So let me show you.
What are you spending your time on?
Right. So I have my own words and my own definitions that I've never used ever before. So one word is time assets. Okay. And according to our definitions that we just went over, this would mean something you spend time on that increases in value or grows.
Okay.
Right? And a time liability is, according to our definitions, this means something you spend time on that decreases or goes down. It doesn't add value. Okay? Now remember, once we use time, we can't get it back. There's no time machine that we know of unless you're watching Back to the Future with what's his name?
Michael
Keaton.
No, Michael, the other one.
Who is it? Him? Never mind. We're not going to go there. The hell with it. It doesn't mean anything. You can't get time back. Okay. Now, let's press on because I know what's going to happen here if I don't.
Wait. Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. Thank you. Let's press on because if I don't cover this, it won't make sense. So there's a third part to this equation.
Oh, the old triangle, eh?
Well, it's not quite a triangle, but yeah, something like that because it doesn't raise or lower like we're used to. At least I haven't thought about it that way. So there would be a lot of debate on what is valuable and what's not, right? Like, for example, you spend an hour and a half cutting your grass, Peter.
I do it in 45, Bill.
It could be said that number one, the pleasure of a nice lawn is the pay. Right? Or you could say that someone cut the lawn, or you could pay someone to cut the lawn, right? And have free time. Or make more money working. So it's a waste of time cutting the grass. So depending on which way you look at it, so the guy that wants a pretty yard would say it's an asset. The guy that doesn't care about a pretty yard but has something else going on would say it's a liability. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's because you have to have one more factor to add to the formula. Okay? And that's goals. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
the definition of a goal is the object of a person, the object of it, not like object like a solid object, but the intention.
Objective?
Yeah. There you go.
Like, like something he's shooting for.
Yeah, the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result.
Okay.
So it's something that you don't have and you're trying to get, or it's something that doesn't exist and you're trying to put it there. Like, for example, you can have like, your negative $500 a month with your bills. So your goal could be to make up that 500 plus. Or you're working a job right now and everything is fine and you want to replace that job. That's a different type of a goal. One is a departure from the ideal scene. The other one is just, I want to put it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're trying to get to square zero, when you're kind of trying to get to square one, two, trying to move ahead maybe.
And that's a whole topic in itself. And we'll probably do that in January because I usually do my famous goals are for losers. Okay. And really what that comes down to is that if you don't do certain things with goals, then they're for losers. They're for people that don't know how to use them. Right. So now, like I said, this is a subject matter that all by itself could be like a whole day seminar. It could be a 2-day seminar.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, doesn't everything really start with a goal in a sense?
Well, an intention anyways.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, if you don't have the purpose for the goal, a picture or an ideal scene mocked up in your mind or somewhere, right? And some strategic planning in there, goals will fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
So you can't just wish things true. There has to be some action.
I'm working on it though.
Right. However, if you think about it enough, then the material world will comply. I mean, that's what The Secret was about. That when The Secret was going around, it was all about, wishing things true, right? But as far as time goes, all right, if we have an ambition or an effort and it's aimed toward a desired result, we can now measure my definition of time asset and time liabilities. So let's go back to cutting the grass or cutting the lawn, right? If we truly had the passion and purpose of turning real estate into income, cutting the grass is a huge time liability, right? Because it's not getting us closer to the goal. Okay? Imagine if you spent that 90 minutes cutting the lawn to find a motivated seller. Right? And that seller was willing to give you $10,000 to solve their problem solve their problem. They give you the $10,000 in equity to solve their problem.
Yeah.
Was that 90 minutes well spent?
Oh, hell yeah.
Why?
Because $10,000, that's about $6,600 an hour.
Right.
I mean, it might take you the rest of the month to do the deal, make it 6 hours, but still, gee, that's pretty good money.
Right. So now that's a time asset. Okay. Now, let me put it in different words because otherwise I'm going to go off in a tangent. You can have someone who is like religious, right? And this is just because this is not for any other reason other than it's a good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have someone that's religious, and then you can have someone that puts religion first.
Mm.
So what's the difference to you when I say that?
I'm not sure, because if they're religious, are they doing things or just...
Okay, so are you religious?
Yes.
Okay. So have you ever met anybody that puts religion first? That's all they talk about.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, to me, unless I'm going the wrong way, what you're thinking, to me, somebody who does that...
Just give me an honest answer.
My honest answer, somebody does that kind of misses the boat on the rest of life. You know, it's kind of filtered through so much, just that perspective. I think they lose perspective on other parts of life. I think there's an imbalance.
Right.
I think there's a right way to do it. But I think if you go all the direction that way... Well, put it this way. The people I've seen that do that don't have the rest of their life going.
Okay.
Because they're missing out on all the rest of it. They just don't do that part of their lives. They talk about it.
Right.
I talked to a philosophy teacher once at Yale. That's nice philosophy, you know, figuring people out, doing nice things. So what do you do then? What do your students do then? He says, nothing. No, once they learn philosophy, do they go do something? No. Right. So to me, it was an example of like, yap, but why don't you go out and do something? Go help somebody.
Right. So, all right. So in other words, it's kind of like this. When you say, I want to buy a house, right? Do you expect, no matter what, no matter the pushback, the barriers, the obstacles, you're going to get the house?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, when you say get a house, you're willing to die for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the person that puts religion first,
mm-hmm.
that's the first thing they're going to do every day of their life.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, read their Bible or do their meditation or, do their dance or whatever the ritual is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mocking it, so please don't send me a support ticket about that because I am very religious.
Yeah, no, those are all parts of valid religions. They do all those things.
Right. So whatever it is, they're going to do that before they do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else becomes second.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you take the be do have,
right,
that Kiyosaki, that what's his name talks about in Think and Grow Rich,
sure,
which was written in 1910,
mm-hmm.
right? Was written really earlier, 1913, right? So you could say something like this. You could say, so have is you got a house.
Mm-hmm.
So do could be. B could be I'm a veterinarian doing real estate, right?
A veterinarian.
A veterinarian doing real estate. Let's say you're a veterinarian.
Sure.
Because this happened to me once. This actually happened with one of my friends.
Okay.
He was a veterinarian. So you could say I'm a veterinarian doing real estate.
Okay.
Or you can flip it around and you can say I'm a real estate investor doing veterinarian work.
It seems that they don't fit, though.
That's my point.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you're a veterinarian, to do veterinarian work, so did he really do it like that?
Yeah.
Was he doing veterinarian too?
Yeah. He owned a veterinarian clinic.
Okay. Did he switch hats when he put the real estate to work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'm using real estate as an example. He actually did it for religion.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm doing my religion first,
mm-hmm.
then as a veterinarian.
Mm.
Okay. Anyways, that's not important. My point is
mm-hmm.
this: what's first in your life?
Mm.
I mean, obviously you have family and you have friends and all that, but I'm talking about when it comes to making money or having a goal, right? Like this story, I don't even know where it comes from, but the story about, and we talk about it all the time, I don't even know what to call him, the captain or the general that has the ships that's going to go attack the island.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all of his ships burned they land on the island and he has all the ships burned and says, we're going to die by the sword or we're going to conquer the island.
Mm-hmm.
There's no turning back. That's what I'm talking about.
No ride home.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, now you have to be careful because, like you say, if you're doing religion and you're all religion and nothing else, it's kind of dangerous. So there has to be a balance, which again, I promise you I have that by the end. Okay. The point is that when you take this viewpoint or this stance or this position, it will change. Because what will happen is you'll put out enough energy that the universe will comply. If the universe thinks that there's a doubt it can change your mind, it will. Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's I don't have this written down, so I'm gonna kind of go off on a tangent here and then come back. Here's an interesting thing that happens the most. Let's say your universe is a 3 on a piece of paper. Draw it out, a 3-inch circle, and your whole universe is within that 3-inch circle.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So you're used to everything in that 3-inch circle. That's your universe. You're used to it all. You're comfortable with it. You know what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right. Suppose you expanded that circle to 5 inches. You now have an additional 2 inches of environment or surrounding. Right. Is it possible in that additional 2 inches there's things that you're not familiar with?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so
hell yeah.
when you get into real estate and you're expanding like what we're talking about, you have that extra 2 inches of stuff you're not familiar with. So the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to seem like a lot of confusion and a lot of things you don't understand. And it's going to make you think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Look at all this confusion. Look at all these things that are happening. They're not conducive to my decision. No, you just took on another 2 inches, and I'm just using this as an analogy. You took on space and more environment that you're not used to.
Sure.
So the only way to burn off the confusion is just to keep putting more order in. Right? Just putting more, organizing things and just making things.
Plow through.
Yeah.
Make the calls.
Right.
Show up.
Be uncomfortable a couple times, but after a while, you'll soon be comfortable with that.
And it's not so weird. I mean, I have to do that every week. Something comes up for me.
Right.
You probably still bump into things here and there.
Totally.
But it's just you write it down. You make the list. You make the call. You do the thing, and it's not so bad.
Right. So now what I want to do is I want to make a list of some time assets and some time liabilities that you can that can really make you wealthy. Okay, just to give you some examples. Okay. First, I'm going to get some water. Then we're going to go through them.
Okay. Yeah. So by the way, you said something a couple of minutes ago. I think it was a book by Patrick Clouden about being successful. I think it was that book. You might have seen this too. But he talked about people that wind up being successful in a business. They just hammer and tong at it for like months. Just don't stop.
Oh, you want to read a book on that? I'll give you the perfect book.
What is it?
It's called Obsessed by Grant Cardone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Obsessed.
I just heard the title. I know it was my father as a barber told me a story about his customers that were starting a business on the side, and they would come in with their eyes red and bloodshot, and they'd sit in the chair for a haircut and fall asleep because they were just killing it night and day to build a side business, and they would do it for a year or two. Yep. And then when they were done, the other job jettisons, they got this company and it's cranking. Right. But they really bust their chops to do this. So
yeah, and you don't have to do it that way.
It doesn't have to be that extreme, but the point
is that they're willing.
They're willing to just work hard
at
something.
Throw everything over, which is what jettisons mean. Throw everything overboard.
Yeah, it doesn't happen just by doing the routine. The routine ain't gonna work.
Right.
You'll get the routine back.
Dan Kennedy talks about that. He talks about the herd mentality. It's like one of the ways I make decisions is the more people that agree that I shouldn't do it is the reason why I do it. My test is Emma, my ex-wife, and my new wife. If I tell them and they're like, oh, no, then I know that I have to do it.
But don't let them know.
Not always Emma. Emma's changed. She's
learning.
Finger. She's giving me the finger over there.
Yeah, don't tell too many people. They're going to learn. They're going to they're going to tell you the opposite just to get you.
let's talk. I'm in deep shit now. It's unreal, and she's gonna play it for her mother now, and I'm gonna have to get a call from my ex-wife later. Do you hear? What are you doing?
And they're gonna conspire. I've had 3 gang up against me, man. You gotta be careful.
Yeah. All right, ready? So here we go. Number 1, spend time doing your marketing. Right? Some form of deal hunting. Like I like to say 30 to 60 minutes a day. But that's a time asset. Outflow. Letting people know what you do. I buy houses. Outflow.
Yep.
You can't do anything unless you do that.
Yeah.
The most powerful way to do it is to call for sale by owners and handwrite letters. Right, to people that are selling houses. Right, and I have a whole bunch of stuff on that at flippinghousesforrookies.com. Just go there, hit courses on the top right-hand side, and you'll find stuff there.
Yep.
Stuff that's as low as $37 and as high as $197. But it can teach you how to do that. I'm not here to tell you that. It's just so I don't have the support ticket. Like, how do I do that? Okay. Number 2, spend time talking to and pre-screening prospects and suspects. Again, like I said, I prefer 30 to 60 minutes a day. I mean, with my coaching clients, I try to get them to do 60 minutes a day of each. You know, in the morning, do their marketing, in the afternoon. And it doesn't have to be every day. It could be like, you know, you spend 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday, do the marketing, you know, and you spend, you know, an hour a day or 40 minutes a day talking to a client. A client calls. When you do your marketing, you're going to get calls in. You have to talk to somebody.
Yep.
Now, I've clarified this because this is time assets. The most valuable thing you can be doing is your marketing, and then I have them in order. The second most valuable thing you could be doing is whacking the suspects. Most people think the most valuable thing you could be doing is talking to prospects. No. The most valuable thing is to whack the suspects. Because if you don't know how to do that, which is a Ron LeGrand term, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't want to steal that. So if you whack the suspects, the prospects will be left. You'll know what to do. If you don't whack the suspects, you will not know that the prospect's standing in front of you, and you'll be beat up and tethered and not do a good job. So whacking the suspects, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, this is like the icing on the cake when I get to it, because I'm only 2/3 of the way there. Are you enjoying this? Is this different? Am I keeping up to my promise? Okay. Whacking the suspects is the most valued skill you can have. Most think it's deal structuring. That is wrong. The most valued skill you can have as a creative real estate investor, hear me loud and clear right now, I don't emphasize it enough, is to whack the suspects. That is the most valuable portion of your business, because the thing that kills creative real estate investors is too many suspects.
Yeah.
They'll start to think that they can't do it. They'll start to think that it's not possible. They'll start to think that it doesn't work in their area. They'll start to believe the naysayers and their surroundings. I'm telling you, whacking the suspects is the most powerful skill you can have. Have I emphasized it enough?
Bill, I got an image when you said that.
Tell me.
Panning for gold.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting there with the pan and there's dirt in it and there's little rocks and you're going like this and you're throwing the dirt away, throwing the rocks away. And you have to know also the fool's gold and the real gold.
Right.
You have to know that, but you have to know the gold when you see it. And it might not look what you expect.
Right.
And if all you're seeing is dirt and rocks. So it is a bit like panning for gold. Right. It's definitely there. You got to go to the right place.
Right.
You got to pan and you got to find. But it isn't free. You don't just go there, show up and like, I'm rich. I'm done.
All right. So number 3, making offers. Because we're talking about time assets, making offers. No better asset than making offers. You can't get any better than this, right? And if you take 2 and 3 and put them together, then you're a real estate success. When you find a prospect and make him an offer, you can't lose, okay? I think a viable amount of offers that should be done is anywhere from 2 to 5 per week. Okay, 2 is a low number, but 2 to 5 offers a week. I don't care if you make 1 offer a week. You have to do it. Okay, so depending on how quick you want to ramp up your income, depends on this point, right? Honestly, this is like the gas pedal for your success, right? It's like more offers equal more income. Less offers equal less income. It's a formula.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could work this backwards too, couldn't you? Like, well, I want to buy a house. Okay. Well, how many offers do you have to make? Okay. How many prospects do you have to talk to? Okay. How much marketing do you have? I mean, you can work it backwards.
We actually have a grid that used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a grid. It's called the $1 billion grid. I don't even know where it is. If you send me a support ticket on it, it's going to drive me nuts. But we just have a grid on what it was. I actually got it from a guy called Richard Roop.
Yeah.
ROP. So what it is he listed all the things that you want in your life, the dollar and how much it would cost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want a Ferrari. I want to live in a $600,000 house. I want a mink coat for my wife and blah, blah, blah. You know, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he put a dollar amount on it. Then on the bottom of the formula, on the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet, it asked, you know, what do you think you can profit per house? And then it did the math for you on how many houses you need to buy to have that lifestyle based on the formula. It was pretty cool.
So in my case, I'm just talking about then from that point, working backwards to get there.
That's right.
But yeah, that's a great idea.
Right. So another very valuable time asset is looking for money to fund your deals. Now, I'm talking about funding deals you already have. I'm not talking about finding money. I'm talking about getting a deal and then finding money. So money chases deals. Deals don't chase money. Okay, it's bad grammar, but that's the way it is. Deals don't chase money. Money chases deals. So the best thing you could do is go out there, do your marketing, get a deal, and then go find the money. And most won't do that because they'll think, oh my God, what if I can't get the money? What if I can't do this? It's so backwards, it's pathetic. It's one of those universal laws that most people can't wrap their mind around and do not do real estate business because of.
Well, isn't that like wanting to have before you do?
Right.
You know, it sure would be more comfortable, but we're not talking that.
Right.
We're talking about just making things happen.
Right. And necessity is the invention of...
The mother of invention.
Mother of invention, yeah. Mother of invention. There you go.
Well, there's nothing like calling somebody up or meeting some, say, hey, I got this smoking deal, and next thing you know, talk about it, and then they have money for it.
Right. So the last thing we're going to talk about, which we don't talk about enough because our listeners don't listen when we talk about this because it's too far down the road. It's kind of like talking about the last lap of a 500-mile race. You know what I mean?
Being the one where you win?
Yeah.
The part that you win?
So we don't talk about this enough, but it's a very good time asset is to sell a house.
Oh.
Because once you buy a house, you need to reverse all of it. You need to do the marketing. You need to weed out the prospects and the suspect buyers, right? And you need to get offers instead of give offers, right? And all the things you need to worry about where you're going to get the money from, you know, how you're going to get the money. So everything we just talked about is on the reverse side when you're selling a house.
Yeah.
But there's no better time to do that. Now, here's the thing. What will happen, and I use a auto repair facility because I own one for 28 years to explain this, okay? So you have the one-man show.
Right.
So what happens is he goes up front to the counter where you check in to get your car taken care of. And he fills out the paperwork like, you know, Pete, what's going on with your car today? Well, when I take a right turn, it goes clunk, clunk, clunk. Okay. So he does that, right? So he does that for some time, right? Like we'll say for a couple hours.
Yeah.
He's up front. He's ordering parts. He's like, you know, trying to get business in the door because there's nothing to work on.
Yeah.
Then what happens is he gets cars to work on and he ignores the front and goes to the back and works on the cars. And then pretty soon all those cars are fixed. And what happens? There's no more cars to fix.
Empty again. Back to the front.
Because he didn't go to the front. So he goes from the front to the back, from the front. That's called booms and depressions.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's a dangerous disease for a business.
Yeah.
So what has to happen is while he's in the back working on cars, he needs to continuously outflow to get new customers. So when he's done fixing these cars, there's more waiting for him. Well, this works perfectly in the house business, Peter. Because you get a house and you're working on it, and you're working on it, and you're working on it, and you're not outflowing to get another house.
Bill.
Right? Because we just did that.
Yeah.
Not just, but last year.
Last year was
We're not
yeah.
doing it now, but
Yeah.
it's too easy to fall into that trap. So you spend all your time, you think that you're spending asset time working on this house. And it's really liability time.
Well, is it an asset for that, but a liability for the other? Or?
No. Because technically, the only time you should spend on that house is your half an hour day in the visit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And maybe another half an hour dealing with some stuff. Now, like today, I prefer you go with me, but I have to go out and spend a couple hours in the house because we have an electrical inspector and a plumbing inspector. And although my contractor could do it, it's best if I do it because I'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to spend a couple hours there, which is annoying to me because it's to me a liability time. But it in this particular case, I do it because if I don't, it'll push the project. It could push the project 2 or 3 weeks further, and that'll cost me more money than my 2 hours.
Right. And
so it's really coming down to managing my liabilities. But I know it's liability time. It's not getting me anything back. Once I give that time up, I'm not going to get any more money for this house by me spending 2 hours in it.
But you're trying to avoid a loss of a week or two.
Right.
So, yeah.
So which begs me to talk about who does the work, because there's a lot of my coaching clients that are contractors that think doing the work is an asset for them. You have to understand that if you understand and make money with real estate, the most powerful thing you can be is the thinker or the person orchestrating, the executive. And an executive's job is to get others to do the work. Okay, and that's not a derogatory thing. You know, some people have a button on that, like, oh yeah, like the boss sits around, doesn't do nothing all day.
Yeah, you be the boss for a week.
Yeah,
you try that out.
So a true executive looks in the future. I read in the E-Myth a long time ago. I forgot the author's name.
What does the title mean? E-Myth.
Entrepreneurial Myth.
Okay.
Could you look up the E-Myth for me? I think it's Gerber, his name is. Michael Gerber, I think is his name. How's that from memory? I read that book like 15 years ago. Yeah, E-Myth Revisited, which is Michael Gerber. He says in that book that it goes like this. The executive thinks in the future, the manager thinks in present time, and the employee thinks in the past.
How's the employee think in the past? I got the other two. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, he's always like, well, you know, this is how we always do it.
Yeah, I just got one. Like, I worked all week.
Right.
Where's my check?
Right.
So he's talking about the week he just did. Just to work in the past and get paid now.
Right.
Right.
Right. Or you know, like, you know, my boss made me go home at 3:00 one day, and I lost 4 hours worth of work, and they repoed my car because of it. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they don't have the responsibility of setting things up for the future and planning things. It's not their job.
Right.
So all they can do is do the work and think about what did happen.
So the point that I'm making here is that the executive thinks in the future. So he's always in the future. Like when you hang around with me, and you know this because I put attention on it lately because I've been complaining about it. But you know, I'm always 2, 3, 4 weeks out minimally. Minimally. I mean, I work for a company. We traveled the country for 6 years, and we set our schedule in December for the following year.
Oh.
And we would have a meeting that would take a couple hours to set up all of our cities for seminars and hotels and, you know, preferences. And then my assistant would go and like validate if we could do all of that. But I was in December. I was in January. The guys were working in January. I was in February and March, making sure that I had speakers and I had people in seats and I had, all that stuff. Because I do a lot of event stuff. I'm actually one of my truest talents that I never talk about is event planning. I do a lot of it. I do it for the church. I'm just a professional event planner by accident because I've had to do it so much.
Yep.
Right. So events, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to put an event together.
That's
good
right.
event.
That's right.
So anyways, I'm off on that tangent. So
the point is being creative and looking to the future.
Right.
And not getting stuck in the day-to-day grind.
So being in a house is not doing that. Thinking that you're going to actually, put a wall up and save $100 is not true. If you're actually putting your marketing there and looking for another real estate deal, or you're looking for your buyers or looking for money, that's much more productive.
Yeah, you should be making more money per hour than the work.
But I'm going to come back to this. So let's move on. Because without the information I'm going to release at the end, the actual little formula I have, it doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Okay, so
there's something coming.
Time liabilities, right? So here are some liabilities on your time. These are common ones. You ready?
Yep.
We're not going to elaborate on them. I'm just going to name them, and we're going to keep moving. You ready? Number 1, research.
Okay.
Number 2, over-educating yourself in real estate. Thinking that you need to know everything before you can do something. Because you're afraid, because your ego is not in check, and you're afraid somebody's going to ask you a question, you're going to have to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And your ego won't let you do that. Get over it. I just want to just yell and scream right now. Get over it. It's your effing ego. Get over it. You don't need to know everything. Matter of fact, not knowing shit and telling somebody that you got to go figure it out makes you more powerful than if you have the answer. Because the world is skeptical nowadays. So it's better to go off and show them that you're on their side and go figure out the answer than to have the answer. Because if you just have the answer instantly, they won't believe you all the time anyways because they're skeptical. Okay? So get over that. So you don't have to be overeducated. 3, looking for money without a deal. Thinking you have to have money without a deal. Telling all your friends, I'm gonna. If you're talking to people about things I'm gonna do, or you're gonna do, or here's my plan, it's all time liabilities.
My head spins. Well, I always wanted to do that. Well,
Then
go
do it.
ahead.
Yeah. What's stopping you?
Go ahead.
Here's another one. Seminar junkies. Right? Seminar junkies. Actually, I think, here's the formula I've been talking about. Actually, I think this formula works miracles. You ready?
Yeah.
5 hours of time, asset stuff. I'm going to give that again. 5 hours of time, asset, activity. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
To 1 hour of liabilities. A 5-to-1 ratio.
Okay. How'd you come up with the ratio?
Out my ass.
Close enough.
But it's something to strive for. So if you spend 5 hours doing time asset stuff and then handling liabilities for an hour, you'll be in good shape.
What do you think people do now?
The other way around.
Yeah, probably.
If they do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you need to organize, but you need to cope. You need to organize, but you're always coping. So what's the ratio of you coping to being organized?
Right.
Right. So my formula is even if in the beginning you do 3 hours of time asset to 3 hours of liabilities, at least you're doing it.
Well, I think the important thing is to first get the difference in them.
Right.
I think that'd be the most important thing.
Right.
I used to hammer my poor wife. She's getting in bed. I'd come home and she'd be on the computer playing one of those games with the things going on.
Right.
Say, what are you doing? I'm making points. Yeah, I'm almost done. I need the computer. I'm almost done.
Right.
What do you get when you win? Points. What do you do with the points? What do you mean? The points. What do you get with them? It's like a
Right.
Abbott and Costello routine. So now I have her doing. She was on the computer yesterday doing the marketing. I was like, "Yay! Now we're getting closer and closer." I'm trying to give her more stuff like that.
So Peter,
getting the letters out.
Peter,
me?
You realize that people accuse those of what they themselves are doing, right?
But I wasn't critical. I was just factual.
Oh. You realize that people accuse those of what they themselves are doing, right? You should look at your own time.
I wasn't playing games.
No. But you may not be using your time correctly.
It's about 95% there, Bill.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I can blow holes in that without even thinking about it. All right. So doing it this way.
Let's not argue on the podcast.
Doing it this way will succeed. Okay?
No, that's good advice. I mean,
the last thing I want to cover.
Can I interject something? Because there is a difficulty when people do that. They wind up being torn. Like, I'm so used to seeing this or doing things, and my friend asked me to come over, have coffee. We're supposed to go out for cocktails. Happy people are so used to doing that, they get torn at first. I know.
Right.
So your first bottom line point on this is your fulcrum to get your ass straight, and it's your goals.
Right.
It's like when people put pictures on the refrigerator to remind them what they're trying to accomplish. Do that if you have to.
Right.
But your goals will help you straighten out. And you do have to sacrifice things now for those goals. You won't get those goals if you don't sacrifice now and put the time in. But if you do, you should wind up being at the top of the pile winning. But you have to pay for it. You got to earn it.
Okay.
It doesn't come free.
That's true. So we got to use everything we talked about today. Now, this brings me all to something that's quite amazing when it comes to success. Because if we don't talk about this before we go, then there could be some problems. All right? So success is doing more of the right things than the wrong.
That's a great.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, that's
before,
a great
right?
one. Because it isn't black and white. It isn't perfect. You just keep pushing more to the good stuff, less to the bad stuff. Just keep pushing it.
So that puts us right back to time assets and liability assets.
Yeah.
Right? So doing more of the right things than the wrong. A 5-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Doing more time assets than liability assets.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm sorry, liability time.
Yeah.
Time liability. Okay. Now, what I want to cover about time that's really important is your thinking and your thoughts, because that controls everything. Just read the book Think and Grow Rich. You'll get it. Okay, there's a lot of books on it. The Secret, all that stuff is, it's philosophical, but it's true. I mean, if somebody didn't think that they wanted to build an Empire State Building and have an idea that there's an Empire State Building in place, it wouldn't be there. Okay, everything in your surrounding is there because you thought you wanted it. You actually went to the store or somehow or another got towels to dry yourself off in the shower. You have to go buy toilet paper. It doesn't just show up at your doorstep, although the teenagers think it does. But you got to buy toilet paper.
My kid's got a button by the toilet. You hit the button.
Still got to get there. He had to put it there.
He had to push the. Yeah, I figure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this has everything to do with your surroundings. So I have a little saying that I've recently developed on my coaching call that goes like this. Don't let the environment, or I'm talking about your surroundings.
Yeah.
So don't let the environment invade your ability to observe and think. Don't let the environment or your surroundings invade your ability to observe and think. Now, I want to explain something here, okay? Thinking, to me, is way overrated. Thinking doesn't work for me. People that think, I stay away from. Okay, here's the reason why. Because as far as I'm concerned, what thinking means is it usually comes from your past experiences. Right? Usually, thinking is your past experiences.
If you have anything going on now, you're going to pull all the past to throw on top of it.
Right. So the things that you remember or stay in your memory, and this, some people may not understand this, and that's totally fine. Or the things that stay in your memory are things that you still have attention on because it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Like you tripped and fell. And you remembered that because technically you shouldn't have tripped and fell. Because you walk all the time. Why did you trip and fall that day? Right?
Yeah.
Or you were broke. Why did you remember that? Well, because you shouldn't have been broke.
Yeah, especially if you didn't really understand why it happened and how it never happens again, and I don't worry about it anymore. If you haven't really sorted it out, it's going to stick.
So the way your mind actually works is it's going to hang on to those things, and it's going to feed them back to you subconsciously, thinking it's protecting you. Like if you fell when you were 3 years old on a bike and broke your femur bone, like my sister did.
Oh.
She got hit by a car.
Ooh.
Okay. And was laid in the street for 45 minutes and was in a body cast for 6 months in a hospital. Your mind is recording all that. And so from now on, what do you think my sister's going to think about bicycles? They're not safe.
Yeah, it's almost like just a reaction, isn't it?
But it's below her conscious level.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that she thinks that. It's not like an obvious thing like I'm stating it.
Yeah.
So you have this subconscious thing. Proof of this is anybody listening to the podcast, think of an incident where you're like, I'm not going to do that. I don't know why. I just got this feeling.
Oh, yeah.
I just got this feeling I shouldn't do it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. This is this unconscious thought that's lying below your awareness level.
Yeah. If not, you're just nuts. So it's a little more amenable that there's at least some crazy reason not to use your kook. There's probably something back there.
Right. So,
all right.
So to me, being observant is true intelligence. Being able to see things for what they are without any kind of your opinion or your biased opinion or false ideas, right? Or misunderstoods that you have that you don't know you have, right? This is not easy to do because your mind thinks that it's right all the time. I mean, think of it this way. If your mind is you have a mind to solve problems. If you don't have problems, does your mind go on vacation?
No, what does it do?
It finds other problems.
Yeah.
Right? So it manufactures problems. Like that's the guy that, has $10,000 in the savings account and can never get more than $10,000. Right? In his savings account, or $5,000, whatever the number is. And it's like he gets to $10,000 and the car breaks or the furnace blows up or he hit his goal of wanting $10,000 in the bank and did make a bigger goal of $20,000. So his mind, once you hit $10,000, is not going to stop working. No, it hit that goal. So now, oh, wait a minute. We don't have another goal. Let's have the furnace break and cost $4,000. So now we can go back to the goal of let's make $10,000. That's what your mind is going to do subconsciously. Okay. Now, a good book to read about this was around in the 40s and the 50s. Actually, earlier than that is Psycho-Cybernetics.
Is that old?
Yeah, it's old. Wow. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Okay, that's a good book to read. It gives you some concept of that. Yeah. There's more. The Dianetics book by L. Ron Hubbard is another one. That's a really good one. Okay, that explains all of that stuff. So there are not many of them, but those books are possible.
Yeah.
They definitely could help. Okay, so I'm not here to teach that. I'm not here to go over that. I'm just saying that if you read, those are some good things to read. Okay, so
well, we do have a mind and it's doing something.
Right.
Doesn't hurt to know more about it.
Right.
Maybe you can manage things better.
So the point that I'm making here is that true intelligence is the ability to observe without input, and that's really hard to do. Just see it for what it is. And then make decisions, right? So the things that you and I share and teach, okay, I'd like to think are that way. And the way that we do that is not that we're better observers or we're better thinkers or nothing like that. Is that we truly try to, and it's not easy all the time, but we use statistics to make decisions. Like a statistic for me is is if you say to someone, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? And you say that to 10 people, and 8 people give you a correct answer, not a correct answer, but it breaks the ice, or they give you an answer that will advance the offer, right? Then that's a good statistic.
Yeah. It works.
Right? The Mayo formula, ARV, after renovated value, times 70% minus repairs, has a statistical value that is doing more right things than wrong. So the statistic has to hit that tipping point of had done more right things than wrong for us to be able to talk about it. And I'm very cautious of making sure the things that we talk about has that formula, that we've proven it statistically. We're just not talking about some book that we read, or I'm not talking about some book read and never applied it.
Right.
So the true magic in this world is application, which brings me back to your surrounding or your environment invading your thinking, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because my coaching call last week, we actually had a little segment on this, because when you're in the house making an offer, some of my coaching clients were complaining about the environment controlling their offer. For example, you have a seller that's really good at pitching you instead of you pitching them. Because Grant Cardone says, in a sales cycle, either you be sold or you do the selling. But in a sales cycle, there's only 2 things that can happen. You sell or they sell. Right? So if a customer says, I need to think about it, and you say, okay, I'll call you tomorrow, they just sold you on, they need to think about it.
Yep.
If you say, oh, which part of the deal do you need to think about? Is it the price? Is it the monthly payments? Is it the term? Is it the deposit? Which one is confused? Which one are you stuck on?
Yep.
Actually, it's no deposit. Okay, good. So what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? Well, give me a $5,000 deposit. And there you go. You just got past the, I need to think about it. So that's you selling them. Now, I know that people have buttons on like, you selling and all that, but the whole world is on negotiation. You get what you negotiate. That's just, we talked about that a few weeks ago. Okay?
Yeah, but it's not a terrible thing. You're finding out what the person wants. What's bad about that?
Nothing.
You're getting specific. You're asking an exact question.
Right.
You're not just saying, oh, what are you thinking about? You're asking an exact question.
So if you spend your time building assets, without question, you will be doing more right than wrong. And you will progress over time into whatever goals or whatever ideal scene that you have in your mind, that picture. Right? So the saying is you bite an elephant, you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Right? You don't eat the whole elephant. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. The time asset is more, you're doing more time asset than time liabilities. You're spending more time on the asset than the liability.
Is it also a matter of being patient to just continue with the right, do these as habits?
Right.
And not just try to I got to buy a house.
Right.
We see that. I got to buy a house. They're just looking for a house to buy. It's like trying to go find the fish in the ocean. Just keep fishing.
Right.
And just build, because you're building a business too. You're not just building one-shot deals. You're just building something kind of like a machine.
Right.
If you just develop the habits, it will come.
Right. Because the definition of success is doing more right things than wrong.
And doing is not one shot. It just keep going.
Right. So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, top right-hand side says courses. I know that you shouldn't spend all your time studying. The thing that I make sure of is that our courses are short and sweet, and they get right to the point, and they get they value your time asset. Right? Like, for example, our How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan course. I can't tell you how many people, every week I hear of people that do that course. And it's not meant to do it all at once. Some people will do the first module and go out and just do it. And then when they start getting results, they move on to the next module.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think education should be, right? A good education is true application of what you learn. So if I say to you 2 + 2 = 4, then you should be able to, no matter what, apply that and always end up with 4. If you get 2 + 2 = 3, then you have a misunderstanding, or you have some confusion, or you're doing something wrong, and you should recognize it's you, not the formula.
Yeah.
Right? And you need to straighten that out. And that's why I do things like, for example, if you're on my email list, today is Thursday, tomorrow night I have a conference call, a coaching conference call, and I have like 25 spots on that conference, which it's full right now. But I'll figure that out and get more. But I actually have people like that are on my email. If you're on my email list, you get a special invite to be on this conference call, and I spend an hour to 90 minutes with people that without any cost. It doesn't cost them anything. It's a free conference call, and I answer all their questions. I answer questions on all the whatever barrier they have. I don't know who's doing that. You know, that's not Ron LeGrand's not doing that. Than Merrill's not doing that, and you know, Dave Lindahl's not doing that.
As much as we like Robert Kiyosaki, he doesn't even show up. He never shows up at events.
Yeah. Richard Roop isn't doing that. I mean, all these different gurus, they don't do that. You know, and I'm not even trying to be a guru. It's just that I truly like to help people. That's why we spend all the time. That's why, you know, we've changed our podcast. Look how much we've changed our podcast. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about our beginning podcast to now. Now, I expect you to listen to this contract. It's like going into class. It's a workshop. It's a 60 to 90 minute workshop where you actually, this is not just chit chat. This is not a place for us to entertain you. We're not, you know, you're an entertainer, but I'm not. I'm dry. You know my humor. I'm English, man. I got dry humor. My humor is not, and it's antagonistic because that's how my father was. My father was very antagonistic. So my humor is antagonistic, you know? So I'm very cautious not to use it because it's not what most people understand. So I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to help you make money. And so with that said, if you have noticed that we've made changes, it's because we keep asking for reviews and we pay attention to the reviews and we've made the changes. So if you've not given us a review recently or have not given us a review at all, please do so. Please go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right hand side, there's a link and it says podcast. Just go there and it'll show you how to give us a review. So please give us reviews because we read that, or I read that feedback, and I need reviews. I just need reviews. If you go into iTunes and type in real estate investing, we're like number 3. We beat out we go between 3 and 9. But we beat Grant Cardone and Bigger Pockets. We beat all of them. Because really, where do you go? This is show 173. We're the only podcast that talks about creative real estate investing. That's all we talk about, 173 shows. We don't have guest speakers. We don't change the topic every month or every podcast. It's purely about nothing but buying real estate with a $100 deposit. And you even said last week, it's amazing how every week we can keep coming up with a new way to talk about the same thing. But if you can't get it in 173 shows, then you might want to move on. But it's all stuff like this. It's all real live workshop educational material so you can make money. And we're real as a heart attack, you and I. We do this every day. You know, and the experiences you get over our radio waves or over our podcast waves is exactly from whatever we're dealing with now. Right? I mean, we need to go because I'm past my time by 13 minutes. But we could go in. I mean, one of the things that we can go into, maybe next week I'll talk about it. But we have a house right now where I'm trying to catch a damn squirrel. Because I got a squirrel living in my attic and it's holding up my renovation. I mean, that's a funny story. You know, I'm like, I got one. I'm trying to get the other. And the other knows because he was up in the peak looking at my contractor when he took the other squirrel away. They were
from the inside?
Yeah, he was standing peeking his head out the hole, watching him take away his mate in the cage.
Oof.
So now he won't come out of the hole. So now I got a squirrel up in the attic, and I can't get the son of a bitch out. And I can't. I got to get them out because I got to they ate all the wood, from the soffit.
Yeah.
And they ate all the wood, and they're up in there. And if I just they'll eat it. If I don't take them to 5 miles away,
yeah.
they'll go back into their nest. They'll eat the new wood, or if I board them up in there, they'll eat the wood to get out.
Yeah.
So I have to get
or
them out
die
of there.
trying. That's not good either.
So my entertainment would be for the last week trying to catch a damn squirrel. Can you imagine this big old fat guy like me smoking a cigar trying to catch a squirrel? And it's like a freaking cartoon.
Yeah, what book is that in?
Yeah, you can call me Elmer Fudd. Okay, that's what it's like.
The pesky squirrel.
Exactly. So that's it. We're over and out. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.